parasite that has plagued humanity for thousands of years, shaping history in ways we're only now starting to get our heads around. It's a truly ancient enemy. And for hundreds of millions of people, well, the fight is far from over. So today, let's talk about the hookworm.
Okay, first things first, let's meet the culprit. Take a look at this. This creature, and yeah, it's magnified way up, is tiny. We're talking less than half an inch long. But please, do not let its size fool you. Its impact on our health and our history is, well, it's absolutely massive.
And when I say massive, I really mean it. Just look at this number. Right now, an estimated 700 million people are infected with hookworm around the world. That's almost 1 out of every 10 people on the entire planet. So this isn't some ancient relic we're digging up. No, this is a full-blown modern health crisis happening right now.
All right, so to really understand the hookworm, we've got to look back in time, way back. For centuries, doctors kept seeing the signs of this mysterious illness. They saw the effects, but they had absolutely no idea what was causing it. And this is what's so wild, just how far back these descriptions go. We're talking ancient physicians, guys like Hippocrates and Lucretius. They wrote about a disease that made people look pale, kind of yellowish, and gave them this strange craving to eat dirt. We call that geophagy now. They were describing hookworm disease perfectly, without ever having seen the worm itself. Isn't that incredible? So where is it today? This map tells the story. Hookworm thrives in warm, tropical, and subtropical climates. And if you look closely, you'll see that the map of hookworm infections, well, it tragically lines up almost perfectly with a map of global poverty. The estimate is that it infects about half of the world's poorest people. That's no coincidence. Now, it turns out there are 2 main culprits that infect us humans. You've got Ancylostoma duodenale. That one's a bit more potent, and you can even get it orally. But the more common one by far is Necator americanus. Its name literally means the American murderer, and it's thought to have been brought to the Americas during the transatlantic slave trade. So, the big question is, how does this tiny little worm cause so much chaos? Well, its secret superpower lies in its life cycle. And trust me, it's a truly incredible and kind of terrifying journey from the soil right into the human body. Okay, this diagram here is basically our map. It lays out the parasite's entire journey. Let's break it down step by step. So it all happens in about 4 stages. First, eggs that are passed in human feces hatch in warm, moist soil. Then, step 2, the tiny larvae burrow right through exposed skin. Think bare feet. Step 3 is the wild part. They take this insane trip through your bloodstream all the way to your lungs. And finally, you cough them up, swallow them down, and they arrive at their final destination, your small intestine. What a trip, right? And here's a look at what those first couple of steps actually look like. On the left, that's a microscopic hookworm egg from a stool sample. So when these get into the soil, they hatch. And on the right, that's what happens when the larvae burrow into your skin. It causes this super itchy rash called ground itch. It's the very first sign you've been invaded. Okay, so once the worm has finished its epic journey and gets to the intestine, it settles in for the long haul. But this is no harmless houseguest. Oh no. This is where the real damage starts. Just look at this. This is a close-up of an adult hookworm latched right onto the wall of the small intestine. It uses those sharp mouth parts to literally bite down and start feeding on blood. And to make things worse, it releases anticoagulants to make sure its meal just keeps on flowing. So, here's the absolute key. All of that constant, chronic blood loss, that's what causes the main problem of hookworm disease. What you're looking at here are red blood cells that are all pale and misshapen. It's the classic sign of iron deficiency anemia. And the effects of that anemia, they're just devastating, especially for kids. We're talking stunted growth, problems with brain development, and this deep, deep exhaustion that for a long time was just stereotyped as laziness. You can see how this traps people, right? The disease makes it harder for kids to learn and adults to work, which keeps entire communities stuck in poverty. And for pregnant women, the risks are even higher. In really bad infections, the worms cause so much damage that the body starts losing protein too. This can lead to something called edema, which is when fluid builds up and causes this painful swelling in the face and limbs, just like you see in this picture. So, for literally thousands of years, this worm had the upper hand.
But then, in the 19th and 20th centuries, science started to fight back. And we started turning this mysterious plague into something we could actually diagnose and, more importantly, something we could treat.
This timeline walks us through the key moments. It starts in 1838, when a guy named Angelo Dubini first finds the worm during an autopsy. Then, a few years later, Wilhelm Griesinger connects the dots between the worm and the anemia. But the real game changer was in 1879, with this massive outbreak among miners building a tunnel. That's when we finally figured out how it spreads. And that knowledge, that's what paved the way for huge public health campaigns, like the famous one by the Rockefeller Foundation in the American South.
And this really connects those two big ideas. On the left, you've got the miners from the Goffard Tunnel. I mean, the conditions inside that tunnel, warm, damp, no proper sanitation, it was a perfect storm, a breeding ground for hookworm. And that awful outbreak led directly to the kind of public health campaigns you see on the right. They started focusing on treatment, sure, but also on sanitation, and just teaching people what was going on. Now, that historic campaign back in the day was a huge success in the United States. But around the world, the fight is still very much on. So what's the plan now? And what does the future of this fight look like? Well, today, the main strategy is something called mass drug administration, basically giving out simple, effective pills like albendazole, often right in schools. But, and this is a big but, there are major challenges. For one, people can get reinfected in just a few months if the conditions around them don't change. Plus, just like with antibiotics, there's a growing worry about drug resistance. Really, the ultimate game changer would be a vaccine. And guess what? There is real hope on that front. Right here, we're highlighting Minas Gerais in Brazil, which is one of the places where a human hookworm vaccine is actually in phase 1 clinical trials right now. A vaccine could give people the long-term protection that pills just can't, since they're only a temporary fix. But hey, while we're waiting for that vaccine, our most powerful weapons are incredibly simple. This is the main takeaway right here. Use latrines so the eggs don't get in the soil in the first place, and wear shoes to create a simple barrier that stops the larvae from getting into your skin. It's that straightforward. And that brings us to the final and most important question. If the solutions are really that simple, why is this ancient disease still plaguing half of the world's poorest people? We know how to stop it. We know how to treat it. We're talking about shoes and toilets. It's not rocket science. So why does this ancient enemy still have such a grip on hundreds of millions? It's a question that makes us look past the parasite itself and forces us to confront the much, much bigger issues of global poverty and health equity.